Had to not say anything last night throughout. It was back to school night or whatever you want to call it. And of course they get to the part where they're like, yes, we're going to Google Workspace, Chromebooks, and all that stuff. And they walk through the entire process about why they're doing it, blah, 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 blah. I get it. Totally understand. I wouldn't say everything they said was
Well, I was
accurate.
going to say, were they upfront about the fact that they're going to save a lot of money?
No, that was never part of it. It was more of the convenience factor than anything else. That they can. The whole point of this is like, and to their credit, like we don't want the kids to own a laptop. We just want them to log into a web thing and have all of their content. And it doesn't matter if it's a tablet, if it's a Chromebook, if it's a PC at home. It's just one login experience through our portal, and
Yeah.
they get the entire school thing in a Google Workspace, and that's it. And I was like, oh yeah, you could do that with Windows, but then and then
So
but it's
what that reminds me of is some comedian, probably Jim Gaffigan, although I can't
mm,
quite picture him saying this, but it was a post right after the pandemic was sort of over, and they were kind of complaining about the whole everyone, go back to school and schools aren't equipped for this and blah blah blah. And he's like, you want my kid? And maybe it was Jim Gaffigan, but you want my kids to play or to learn on the device that they play Minecraft on? I
mm-hmm.
don't think so. Like I just don't see this happening.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's the problem. The Chromebook is not distraction free, but it is less capable than a Windows PC and maybe more distraction free. I don't know.
Yeah, it's more so the fact that they can just log into Google into a classroom workspace and it
Yeah,
doesn't matter. Like that's the end of it.
yeah,
It's
that's
like
their whole experience on the device. Yeah,
yeah. And that's it.
yeah,
All they need is basically a thin client. It's like, well, you could do it with Windows. Like, you know what? The amount of hoops you'd have to jump through. And then they actually got to that. It's like, we actually tried this with Microsoft stuff, and there were too many workarounds and caveats, primarily, and this is the interesting one. The biggest reason they said they wanted to switch, I'm not even making this up, is that kids would save content to the local desktop, and then they would turn the device in and then have no idea where that document is. And they're like, well, it was just easier to go to Chromebooks than to try to solve that problem. And I was like, you know,
yeah.
there's ways around it. If somebody's going to write in and
I
be like,
know.
look, all they had to do was to turn on OneDrive desktop sync or put it in a thing. And like, that's not, you're totally missing the point. There's what, like 70 kids in her class, like the whole grade, and multiply that by
Yeah.
every single grade or so, whatever many kids there are. And it's like, yeah.
There is a nonsense blog post up about Surface and Windows 11 that no one will ever find, and I refuse to write about. But I will just mention it here. It's on probably Tech Community, something like that. And it's just all the amazing things that happen when you move to Windows 11, right? Okay, cute. But one of the things it's content free. There's nothing there. But they link to a Forrester study, which I will just grossly paraphrase because I don't remember the exact details. But it was basically about the cost of deploying Windows 11 to a workforce versus the benefits of it, and that it was obviously a net gain, and you save all this money, and it's more secure, and blah blah blah. But there's a lot of interesting details in there, including the amount of time it takes to deploy a Windows laptop, the average cost of that,
Mm-hmm.
and literally was thinking about schools, and I was like, this is part of the reason that schools go to Chromebooks. It's just teachers can actually handle the tech stuff,
Yeah.
and it's, I don't know what school this is, but typical school in the United States, whatever. I mean, it's incredibly expensive to hire people and all the support costs and whatever. And it's just a problem Microsoft has never gotten in front of. To be fair to them, I think they've tried,
Yeah.
right? And I don't think they've gotten there. I think the central benefit of Chrome OS and is still there, still
Yeah.
a thing.
Oh, it absolutely is. So, anyways, like that was the thing. I was just sitting there twiddling my thumbs like, this is the end of the society as we know it. But yeah.
Well, yeah.
Anyways, Office apps are getting a new default theme in September.
Yeah, this is light. Hey, Laurent and I were talking about this briefly yesterday, and he's like, "Didn't this happen like 2 months ago?" And I'm like, "Well, they announced the font, but now it's like the fonts and like the color
Mm-hmm.
palette is changing slightly. They've gotten rid of yellow, and it's not, it's very subtle, but I think the combination of these things will make uh, those applications, well, the documents that you're working on in those applications, like more modern and whatever. I mean, I don't know. It's not a, it's a subtle thing. I was strongly considering boycotting this, what's it called? Aptos or something.
Yeah, that
It's a little off to me, but it's, I don't know. I'm trying to get used to it. These are not weighty topics, but I just, but I do stare at Word a lot. And
Oh yeah, no, I stare at it all day long. I mean, well, not all day long, but I use
yeah,
Word, Excel, PowerPoint. I mean,
yeah, those are the ones that are going to change, right? You're going to see some interesting stuff. So you probably, if you have to make presentations, you must have like a corporate template or something.
hmm
So it's probably not going to change too much for you because you'll be using your own stuff anyway.
in theory, that's how it's kind of whatever. Yeah, I don't know. What I don't want to be. I'm sitting here trying not to be like, you guys. Why are you doing this? When like I'm thinking in the back of my head, my kid's just going to learn slides, sheets, whatever. Now, granted, they did mention that. So my daughter's going
Yes.
into fifth grade. They did mention that if she stays at the school all the way through high school, they said she will go through and learn Excel extensively and PowerPoint and Word. Like that is still going to be part of the curriculum because
Okay.
to their point, they said that's what the business world uses, and we would want them to go into college knowing that. They said, however, for the middle school, it's not needed.
Okay. That's great. I
Yep.
mean, I do like the idea of full office being a step up or an upgrade or however you want to
Yes, that
phrase
was
it.
very much the way it was positioned. That Office was the premium experience, and like, look, these are kids who are typing out letters to Santa Claus, sort of thing. And
Yeah. 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 No, I think that's true. Actually, you know,
mhm,
so, all right. Okay.
yeah. And then Netflix doing beta. I don't know. Like,
Someone's going to figure out cloud gaming. Is that
yeah,
the,
is Netflix going to be the company that figures it out? I mean, Sony actually appears to be doing it better than Microsoft, which is,
ironic?
yeah, isn't it ironic, don't you think?
What is it? What would it take for a Microsoft guy to switch to a PlayStation? What would it take?
Honestly, it'd probably take about 4 people in my life to switch over that I play games with. And like, if you guys are going PlayStation, then it's
Well,
whatever. I'm
but
still playing Call of Duty. Doesn't matter. Like,
I was gonna say, depending on the game, crossplay's fine.
yeah. Oh, that's true.
Like crossplay would work fine with Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Does work fine. I mean,
Yeah, I don't know. The ironic part isn't it? I'm pretty sure it's running on Azure. At least that's the expectation. Because remember, Sony signed that deal with Microsoft for Azure stuff or whatever. So it'd be hilarious if they're streaming games from Azure and a higher
well,
bit
this
rate.
is, well, I mean, they would be paying for it, I guess. This is the way kind of Microsoft can win in gaming, even if they lose,
hmm
right? They can be that back end service. But actually, I almost answered my own question for myself. I mean, honestly, I've kind of gone back and forth on Game Pass, but I'm back on Game Pass Ultimate, and the cloud gaming does not factor into my decision in the slightest. But I got to say, the cloud gaming library, no, sorry, the PC and Xbox Game Pass libraries are fantastic, and they're about to get stupid, like stupid
Yeah.
good. And honestly, that is what would keep me on Xbox, right?
Yeah.
It,
Anybody listening to this, I'm not buying a PlayStation. Like, I'm too
no, no,
comfortable.
I wasn't suggesting that you were, but I was sort of asking rhetorically, like, what would it take for one? Like, if you
Yeah.
were not you necessarily, but anyone. Um, I feel like that's been a serious question for a while now,
hmm
and I think that the moves they're making with Game Pass, especially, will help alleviate that problem because sticking with Xbox doesn't necessarily mean sticking with that console anymore. And I've not been gaming as much, but I have been gaming since March on the PC, which is something I've not done since pre 2005, I guess. And for example, that Quake 2 remaster came out. I've been playing that on the PC. It's great. You know,
hmm
so I'm still in Xbox.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm actually looking forward to Starfield. It's Microsoft is throwing what it feels like everything they have at this, like from a marketing perspective, like literally everything. So if this game doesn't do very
No doubt.
well, then that's going to be a massive issue for Microsoft. But I'm optimistic that
Yes.
it's going to do well. Has to. They delayed it a year effectively, so
They delayed Halo
I
Infinite a
know, I know,
year,
I know. And
and
in
I hate to keep
Redfall,
using that example, but as I observed back in probably April or so, I was like, if you want to cure yourself of a video game addiction, just force yourself to play Halo Infinite. That will solve the problem very quickly.
although to their credit, it's in a much better state. Forge has pretty much made
Yeah,
Halo playable again because all the community driven maps, which hilariously and not hilarious, the community went and rebuilt all the classic maps that people want. And so that's
which
what's driving engagement now.
is what we want to Call of Duty, by the way, Activision,
Yeah.
and maybe Microsoft now will make that happen, right? But to your point, yeah, no, you're right. But there's always that asterisk, which is Forge has been around since what, Halo 3, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they knew that Forge was key to the success of this game the whole time, and they didn't have that thing ready to go
Oh
at
yeah,
launch.
not even close.
Like seriously, there's no excuse for having to delay the game a year and then shipping it a year later still incomplete. Like you're 100% right. It's in a much better place, and there's more of a long roll with games now with Microsoft because of the Game Pass stuff and blah 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 whatever. But it's I don't you just don't you can't do that, and
Yeah, no,
so
you can't get away with that. It's
mm,
one of those things you can have it happen once, okay,
uh,
but it wasn't just a one-off for Xbox Game Studios. They've had some other duds come through. So
no, and they've had Halo 4 or 5 were kind of non-events, and
right,
I don't know. Anyway, I agree with you. Starfield seems like it's a good place. We're gonna have to see. Like the reviews are gonna be very interesting. If it's not a bunch of 10 out of 10s, we'll see. But
yeah.
yeah,
I don't want to say
see.
they're betting the farm on it, but there's a lot of cattle headed to the.
The one thing they have that could save things is Activision, right? I mean, that would be the band-aid that would fix all problems, I guess.
Well, it
But I for a news cycle, from
yeah,
a PR.
it'll get them through another. Yeah,
Yeah. We'll see. How much would EA cost?